Pitt's dancing, everybody. Yes, they are. For the first time since 2016, the Panthers are back in the dance. Let's talk about it all today on this episode of Locked On Pitt.
You are Locked On Pitt, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Panthers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
On, everybody, welcome back to the Locked On Pitt podcast, your daily podcast covering the Pittsburgh Panthers, and we got a good one today. For the first time since 2016, the Pittsburgh men's basketball team is going to the big dance. Yes, it is not the field proper just yet, but they are dancing, and they're going to Dayton on Tuesday to face the Mississippi State Bulldogs out of the SEC. But let's talk about this team because, folks, this is a big, big moment for Pitt, and we can talk all about everything and what's going on, and there's a lot to talk about with the selection committee and what they did today that leaves me shaking my head at times because it was inconsistent, and I was like, how do you leave that team out? Why do you leave that team out? Then how do you leave that team out? And then how do you leave that team out? It's a lot, right? So let's take a look at everything when you look at this. NC State got it over Pitt straight to the main field. I know people are a little bit mad at that. I want to break that down and kind of just compare some things and why it was that. I think it's really one thing that kind of separated that. But I don't want to lose sight of how huge this is for this program. I'll have to remember where they were from here. Just at the beginning of the year. Just doing that after Brooklyn, when we were talking about them getting punished by West Virginia, and then they went to Brooklyn, got crushed by Michigan, then lost to VCU. Like, all of this stuff, it is so easy to think about how bad this team was at that point. But to be in the tournament after that stretch, and after being picked 14th in the preseason ACC pool, like, folks, let's be real. That is huge for this team. Huge, 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 huge. There's no underselling just how important this is for Pitt. It really is that big. It really is that hard to project everything. Everything about this for Pitt is a win. I don't care about the NC State. You can feel if they were drubbed, and we could talk about that. But let's talk about the fact that this team was in the mud in November. And after Brooklyn, no one would have thought they would be here. Period. No one. No one would have thought they would be here. But they are here. And that, my friends, is an accomplishment in its own right. And that everybody should be very, very happy about as well, by the way. Just a massive, massive, huge thing for Pitt at this point. And this is a program-changing year, potentially, if Jeff Capel capitalizes on it the right way. He was done with a bunch of old men through the transfer portal, but this is where you have to start when you go from rock bottom. Jeff Capel's tenure at Pitt looked awful. It looked like he was going to potentially get canned. And then he turns it around and goes to the NCAA Tournament. Let's just start all the way back at the saga. They were 0-18 under Kevin Stallings. After the 2017-2018 season, that's where this program was. A proud program that had fallen into the depths of nothingness. I mean, there was nothing on this team. This team had nothing. Last year, it was a chore to watch them. Last year, it wasn't fun. This year was one of the more fun moments and years I can remember just watching this. Honestly, let's just look at where this team was and how many fun wins they had, how many memorable wins they had. Virginia, Miami, Northwestern, NC State, North Carolina twice, Syracuse. Like, there are so many moments to just look at with this team and be remembered with this team. And don't be discouraged by where they are in the first four in. Don't be sad that they didn't get a higher seed. Be happy that they're even here. It did not. It was a miracle to me that they were even on the bubble when you looked at where they were in the preseason. It truly was a miracle. This team was nothing. This program was nothing. They had nothing. But here they are. They have made an NCAA tournament, really against all odds. No one expected this. They finished fifth in the ACC, tied third, really. And all of that culminated in an NCAA tournament berth. No matter how thin of a razor margin it is, no matter how much people try to discredit it, they are dancing. And that is, in and of itself, a special thing for this program and where they were just 4 months ago. This program looked like it was going off the rails and that Jeff Capel was a lame duck head coach. Not so much anymore. This group is fun. They have their warts, but I'll tell you what, this is one of the more fun Pitt teams I can remember because they're easy to root for, and this resurgence came out of nowhere. Yes, in future years, you're going to have different expectations, but just enjoy this year. Just enjoy the feeling of meaningful March basketball. Enjoy the feeling of hearing that CBS Selection Sunday music. There were years past where I didn't even care about the Selection Sunday stuff as much, and that sucks because I love March Madness. Obviously, you watch March Madness no matter what, but it's different. It really is different. It hits a little bit different when Pitt is there. And when you're watching all these conference tournaments, looking for bid stealers and looking for who goes where, what goes here, it's different. It locks you into the game. And it makes the atmosphere. It's such a unique atmosphere in sports. Nothing can replicate what college basketball does when your team is in there. Legitimately. And so, honestly, you look at Pitt, and this season's a success. It doesn't matter if they lose to Mississippi State, they go to the Sweet 16, they go to the Final Four. I don't care. This season's a success. They shouldn't have even been here. That's why this is a success. Their finish wasn't great, but they're still in this thing. They're in this thing, and they're dancing again. And that, my friends, is just the most important part of this all. When you put everything down to an essence and you go to the most simple thing about the season, the fact was they were supposed to be awful. They were not awful, and they made the NCAA tournament, and that means a whole heck of a lot. But let's talk about the seeding and whatever was happening in this selection committee room, because some of them I don't know what happens. But first, folks, let me let you know about Built Bar, because the Built March Madness bracket is here, and we know you have your favorite bar at Puff. And now is your favorite time to make it count. Go to builtmarchmadness.com to vote for your favorites. Folks, you can vote on anything from your favorite bar, and if you want to support Pitt, then you'll be wanting to vote on a similar bar that you love too. Support your team, support your bar or puff. And folks, when you vote for your favorite bar or puff, you will be entered into a drawing where there will be 50 lucky Locked On listeners who get a free box of Built. Not only that, but one Locked On fan will win a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your front door. You gotta try Built. Built's the best protein bar ever. Seriously, they're so amazing. You don't even think it's good for you. And what makes Built so good? It's made with 100% real chocolate, and it tastes like heaven. So run to BuiltMarchMadness.com right now to vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're there. You can vote every day in March, so hop in and support your pick. All right, folks, let's talk about everything that transpired here. The seeding doesn't always make sense. Here's where Pitt made its hay. And this is really where I want to just take a snapshot, essence it down, and everything. So why is NC State over Pitt? NC State doesn't have a bad loss. And by that, I mean they're very spotless in the lower tiers. No quarter four loss, quadrant four loss, which Pitt has in Florida State, and Pitt lost to obviously Notre Dame. NC State doesn't have as many warts on theirs, but they also only have one quadrant one win, which is why they're 42. But their metrics are better, and they are not suffering from those two bad losses, which is exactly why they're over Pitt. I don't really agree with it. Obviously, Pitt kind of dominated them at their own place, and Pitt really didn't have good metrics though, and Pitt has those two quadrant four losses, and that's why they are where they are in the bracket. I told people this. Here is what you look for when you see Pitt. Why Pitt was in, why Pitt was not in. Here's why Pitt is in. They are 4-4 against the field proper right now. The field that was put in, they are 4-4 against the field. They are 500 record versus the field. Almost all bubble teams were below 500. They had multiple great road wins, including 2 over UNC and the Northwestern win and at NC State against the field. That matters. Not many had that in overall. They also had high-end wins, Miami, Virginia. So Pitt had enough to coalesce together a resume that put them over a team like Rutgers, for example, who really struggled down the stretch, didn't have great metrics at the end, and really struggled with their strength of schedule. Pitt, though, for the most part, was rewarded for their unique qualities, which is road wins, wins versus the field, and overall solid performances overall. But their poor metrics kept them down there, and those 2 bad losses to Notre Dame and Florida State. That's what kept Pitt there. However, they had those unique things, but also NC State clearly did not have those bad losses, and this tournament committee seems to have valued that. What else did they also value, though? They valued a high upside on those bad losses. It's very clear that bad losses did play a large part in all of this. If you lost to bad teams, it did hurt your standing, but it didn't hurt your standing to the point where you would maybe be completely out. For example, Oklahoma State has better metrics than Pitt, has some better wins than Pitt, but they lost so many games. I like this because I think what it tells you about the committee is the committee at some point said, okay, metrics matter, yes, all this matters, but at some point, it comes down to winning basketball games. And Pitt's metrics aren't good. We understand that, but they've won basketball games. They've won close games. There's a skill there that innately is sometimes not measured in all this. And that, I think, is kind of the distinction of it all. Really, I look at it and say, that is where kind of everything coalesces together, is that it's fine, but you got to win at some point. And they had so many opportunities, right? They had 6 quad one wins, but Oklahoma State had so many opportunities to get those quad one wins, and they didn't get a lot of them. And so at some point, I think the committee's just like, got to win games at some point. And I like that about the committee. I like the fact that they placed an emphasis on having to play winning basketball. And I think Pitt has its warts, and there's reasons why they would be kept out, but a 5-bit ACC is good for the ACC too. There were some very underseeded teams, FAU, Texas A&M, Kansas didn't get to go to Kansas City. There's a lot of weird ones on this, but hey, it is what it is. No matter what you think, Pitt got spited. I technically think it was pretty even between Pitt and NC State, but I would have valued Pitt's wins better than the way they valued Pitt's losses. I think they valued Pitt's losses far more than Pitt's high-end wins when comparing their resume to NC State. But that's why. And I just wanted to offer that explanation up. I also, though, just want to go back to what we were talking about because I just got the video from Pitt of them seeing them make the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2016. Watch this team's pure joy and emotion.
NCAA tournament appearances for the first time since 2013 and 2015. And the first
And Pitt is in the tournament for the first time since 2016. Big opportunity here for the Panthers to make a run. And then I want to just talk about kind of first impressions I have from everywhere we are going with this. But first, folks, before we do that, I want to tell you about FanDuel. FanDuel, the official sports book of Locked On. Folks, the midway point of the NBA season is here. Now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Customers will get a no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sports app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores, threes drained, so much more, folks. That includes core markets, spread, money line, total, player props, points, rebounds, assists, so many more exclusive bets that you can even put down. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a bigger chance at a bigger payout for a same-game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet for up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, folks. Let me just talk about the draw Pitt got. While Pitt may have been thrown into the first four and they maybe shouldn't have been, I still believe that obviously Pitt was teetering in and out. It made me nervous, obviously, but they're in. But here's what people don't look at yet that I really like for them. This Pitt team got a really good draw. I mean, relative to what they could have gotten, they got a good draw out of this. And that's something that I think everybody should feel very good about. Mississippi State's a winnable game. It's not that they're not a good team. They are. And we'll break this down more tomorrow. But Pitt matches up well against that team. It's not completely one-on-one and just snap like that, but listen, they don't shoot the three that well. They don't shoot very well, period. And Pitt certainly has an opportunity, if they can shoot well, to win that one actually quite comfortably. It's just going to be kind of what team shows up. Does the rest get them back to where they need to be? That's going to be the question. But Pitt could absolutely win this game, and the matchup isn't bad at all. Then you look at Iowa State, who would be their 6th seed matchup. Folks, Iowa State can rebound the basketball extremely well. There's no doubt about that. They're pretty good on defense, too. That's why they made it here. They forced a lot of turnovers. They run, but they don't shoot that well. They've lost a lot of games from here on out. They have turned the ball over a lot in recent games. And their offense just doesn't score a lot. And they do allow a lot of offensive boards. They can rebound the ball well. They're 74th in the nation in rebound margin with plus 3.4. But they allow Pitt, a team like Pitt, for example, with Federico, to get a lot of offensive boards and second chance points per game. So that's good for Pitt, too. They also just foul a lot. Both these teams foul a lot. And Pitt is obviously a team that kind of has a knack for getting to the line with their physical guards and the physical style of play that they brand themselves on. And I really like Pitt. If they're right, if it's the team we saw, obviously, over the last week and a half of the season, all of it's going to be tough. But, if they play like they can and they play at a high level, This team can win both those games. They could even beat Xavier. And Sean Miller obviously has Xavier playing very well. But it, as a team, if they get hot, can be a team that can make some noise. They absolutely can. They can pull off an upset. Doesn't mean they're going to play so well that they're going to get to the Sweet 16. Although that matchup in the Sweet 16, I'll talk about that too. Xavier's different, though. Xavier shoots really well, but doesn't defend super well. So that one would be a barn burner. That one would be an absolute barn burner on both sides. But it's not a bad draw for Pitt. It's really not. All three of those games are winnable. And then if you really want to get spicy, there is a potential Sweet 16 matchup against Penn State if they can both get there, which I think would be one of the most fun games in the tournament ever, just because I would love to see that rivalry ignited on this stage. Well, we'll see if that happens. I don't know. But the fact that they're there and that is a possibility is very, very, very possible. So I'm a big fan of that draw for Pitt. It's about as good a draw as I could have imagined for them. These are two winnable games right off the bat for sure. If they don't play well and they play like they have recently, they'll just not win any of them. But I know what this team has in them. We have seen the good version of this group. And if that good version shows up, this team can make a nice little run. And don't let anybody tell you they can't. All right, folks. As always, thank you for listening to the Locked On Pitt podcast. We'll talk tomorrow about Mississippi State and where Pitt's going from there. It's all come up on the Locked On Pitt podcast. As always, as we ended here, hail to Pitt.